Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Bolt City Podcast. Dave Palais, Josh Palais, Mario Heron, talking Charger football with you. Told you guys we'd be back in just a couple of days, especially if Austin Eckler said something dumb, and he did, and we'll get to it a little bit later
All
on.
right.
We're going to start off with a guest right away, and really excited to have him. Of course, we talk gambling lines all the time and what to look forward to on the Chargers and what the hot takes are. Mario threw a list at you just a couple days ago. But Ryan Horvat right now from BetMGM Tonight, he's a co-host, and he joins us. We're going to talk a little Charger football and, of course, what's happening in the NFL of what to look forward to in the 2023 season. Ryan, really appreciate you joining us today.
I appreciate you guys having me. I'm jacked to come on. I told Mario I wanted to come on because I've been talking about the Chargers for like 2.5 months. So first things first, guys, I've been sick of the NBA for about 4.5 months. Like on our show, we're talking summer league. We're talking about like Joel Embiid's next team odds. All I want to talk about is college football. But more importantly, I've wanted to talk about the Chargers, who last season, I'm not going to lie, kind of bought in after all the free agent signings, all the moves they made. Obviously, they were a little bit of a letdown, but I think this year, man, if they stay healthy, I have high expectations. I love Kellen Moore taking over for Joe Lombardi because he's going to allow Justin Herbert to push the ball down the field with his cannon for an arm. I'm jacked for this season, man. So also, I haven't mentioned yet, I'm a Cubs fan, so baseball season's really been over for like the last 62 days. I'm ready for Chargers football.
Let me start off with the first question, guys, because he touched on a couple things right there that are right up my alley. All right. So, Ryan, I said I'm picking because of Kellen Moore. I would bet Justin Herbert to win MVP this year. He was my pick to be my MVP choice. Am I crazy on that one?
No, I mean, because this was my issue, with the Joe Lombardi offense. Joe Lombardi, I keep joking, he was calling plays for Drew Brees' final 3 seasons in New Orleans all over again. Like when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert with that kind of arm strength, you have to allow him to push the ball down the field. And I know that's easier said than done, when you look at a lot of the weapons, and they struggle to stay healthy. Keenan Allen struggles to stay healthy. Mike Williams struggles to stay healthy. But I like this team, Austin Eckler, I know you guys are going to get into him a little bit later on, but man, when he's right and he's healthy and he's motivated now to make some money, I know no running backs are getting paid. He could catch 80 balls out of the backfield. He could still go off for double-digit touchdowns. But more like what I love about this team this year, you continue to spend money on the offensive line. You have to protect Justin Herbert. Nobody wants him to end up being the next Andrew Luck who couldn't stay healthy because they didn't protect him until it was way too late. But I really like the draft as well. I love Quentin Johnston out of TCU. You can play him most likely in the slot on probably most of those snaps. He's a burner. He has good size. If they stay healthy, I just think that there's way too much talent on the offensive side of the ball. And I love Kellen Moore. I know people kind of fell out of love with him, I guess, in Dallas. We thought he was going to be the next big thing as a head coach. Who knows? But I really like him. I think he's really creative. I think what was going on there the last couple of years in Dallas, there was almost this power struggle because you have to remember in Green Bay, Mike McCarthy was the play caller. So I think at times we saw the Mike McCarthy offense with Dak Prescott and that Cowboys offense. And at times we saw the Kellen Moore offense. I think here, it's going to be his show, and Brandon Staley could just focus on the defense. Thank God. And I'm excited for Kellen Moore, you guys.
So, Ryan, everybody here knows how good the Chargers are because we're Charger fans. Outside of, Southern California, people are counting the Chargers out. They're putting them as the 5th, 6th best team in the AFC. Why do you think that is? Because, like you said, we have a great quarterback, we have a great running back, we have great players all across the board on the team. Why do you think people are counting out the Chargers?
It's a great question. I think, you just think like historically the Chargers always find a way to charger. I guess you go back to like Phillip Rivers to Anthony Lynn. Even, when I was in high school, grade school, I was in love with this team when it was obviously like LT, Drew Brees, and then Phillip Rivers takes over. You had Sean Merriman on the defensive side of the ball. They always had so much talent. They would win 12 games, but something would always go wrong. There was the AFC title game where Phillip Rivers tears his ACL, tries to play through it. It's just, it almost seems like they're kind of cursed. And then you look at the AFC. The problem in the AFC is it's just loaded, and it's now more loaded than ever because you have Aaron Rodgers in New York. Everybody expects big things from the Bills. The Dolphins on the offensive side of the ball, they could score 30-plus points. We'll see what the defense looks like this season. And then in the division, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, and you have Patrick Mahomes, who is the greatest quarterback of all time, the defending Super Bowl champs. You have the Denver Broncos, who are kind of a wild card. They've been such a disappointment the last couple of years, but now Sean Payton takes over. Russell Wilson did look a little bit better the last couple games of the season. I just think it's because the AFC is so loaded and they've struggled to stay healthy. And I still think that there's people, for whatever reason, that don't believe in Justin Herbert. Like, I was laughing last year when he was being called an internet quarterback or whatever. Even at Oregon, like, you could go back. I loved him at Oregon. You know, there are people that are like, it's the system, which I didn't understand. It wasn't the Chip Kelly system, so I didn't understand how you compared him to Dennis Dixon or Marcus Mariota. Like, he's athletic. He can make every single throw. If you keep him healthy, that's the other thing. Like, people forget about the Chargers last season. Like, sure, J.C. Jackson ended up being a complete bust on the defensive side of the ball after some really good years in New England. You know, Joey Bosa struggled to stay healthy again. But if him and Khalil Mack can stay healthy, you know, I think they're still two of the best pass rushers. I think J.C. Jackson could have a bounce back year. They have a bunch of talent on defense. It just comes down to staying healthy. But, yeah, I don't really understand why people aren't buying it. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I don't understand how you hate on Justin Herbert. The guy's the real deal. And, again, what I was trying to say there, week 2, he got hurt. Like, he had a devastating rib injury. I can't believe he stayed in that game. He shouldn't have. He shouldn't have played the next week. Let's see. Like, if he could stay fully healthy, I think he could be the MVP of the league, and they could win 12, 13 games and win that division. That's why I love them at plus 350.
We got Ryan Horvat, the co-host of BetMGM Tonight, also the co-host of Curd and Long. If you are a weird person or a Packers fan, I feel bad for you. But, hey, some people got to have some hard times in life. So as you mentioned multiple times, like, you're big on the Chargers. You got your ticket to win the Super Bowl. So I have 2-part question for you. One, I'm going to try to convince you on another Herbert bet. And 2, what is, like, the number one thing the Chargers need, like, to go right for them to get to that Super Bowl? Like, the one thing that, you know, every run team has, they need that one thing taken out. The biggest thing I always think of is Raptors with Kawhi Leonard, NBA, but whatever. Durant gets hurt. That's their golden ticket. They win the title with Durant. Probably, hell no, that's not happening. So what do they need? And then second, can I interest you at a 7-1 Herbert's most passing touchdowns ticket to lead the league? I really, really like that. It's been like, I've been licking my chops on it a little bit, getting a little excited, had to change of pants a couple times. I love it a lot.
Absolutely. Like, he's going to have a monster season with Kellen Moore. Again, he just has to stay healthy. And I hate to, like, have a cop-out answer here, but the Chargers just have to stay healthy. Really, like, this is the case I keep making for the Chargers. I say, look at every team in the league on paper. Like, take away that Khalil Mack's getting a little bit older, that Joey Bosa struggles to stay healthy, you know, that J.C. Jackson had a down year and had some weird off-the-field stuff. Everybody loved Brandon Staley a couple years ago. He was a great quote. Everybody loved that he went for it on 4th down, how aggressive he was. And then, you know, there was a rough year. Things didn't really work out. They still made the playoffs last year, mind you. And, like, people fell out of love. Also, like, the weird thing is he's this defensive-minded head coach, and I feel like every year they've kind of regressed defensively. But, again, man, that comes down to they just haven't stayed healthy. I love Derwin James. If there's anybody, you know, in that division that could kind of hold their own against Travis Kelce, it's Derwin James. You could have him shadow Travis Kelce. I just think, like, on paper, there's way too much talent. They've just struggled to stay healthy. And I think that's what it comes down to, you know, in coaching. You know, if they don't win a Super Bowl here in the next 3 years, I think it comes down to Brandon Staley wasn't a very good head coach. You know, maybe Kellen Moore ends up becoming the head coach. I don't know. But, yeah, I love the passing yards. I love the passing touchdowns. Because the other thing is, man, like, even Austin Eckler, he's probably going to catch 8 or 9 touchdowns. You know, he's not like Derrick Henry. He's not this power back that you're going to use when you get into the red zone around the goal line. And now you have Quentin Johnston, another weapon, who, again, I absolutely love. He could take the top off of a defense. Mike Williams has to stay healthy, obviously. The wide receivers have to stay healthy. That's what it comes down to, though, like, with this team, man, is it's just health. It's health, and they have to take away the football. They're going to have to force turnovers. And you're going to have some good luck. Like, you have to hope that Denver still stinks because that is a really good defense. You have to hope Sean Payton doesn't turn around that offense. I think the Raiders are going to be an absolute disaster. I have no idea why they went out there and got Jimmy Garoppolo. The Raiders should have one goal. I mean, I didn't even understand. I love Devontae Adams. I think he's a top 3 wide receiver in the league. I didn't understand trading for Devontae Adams because you should be going full rebuild this year. If you were going to say goodbye to Derek Carr, why do you want a 31, 32-year-old wide receiver when this is the year to suck? Because Caleb Williams is coming out next year. And if you don't like Caleb Williams, Drake May's coming out of North Carolina. You know what I mean? Michael Penix is coming out. So it's a deep, loaded quarterback class. So I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good. It just comes down to you have to hope, like, maybe there's a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover for the Chiefs. The Chiefs are always lights out the second half of the season. They always start out really slow defensively, but Spags is a very underrated defensive coordinator. They always figure it out. They're going to win double-digit games because of Mahomes, but you have to hope for a little bit of a drop-off, I guess, or a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover, and you have to stay healthy and actually live up to the hype and hope Brandon Staley, just isn't a goof. Like that's what I'm worried about. Packers, man. Matt LaFleur won 13 games, 3 consecutive years with Aaron Rodgers. Last year they stunk. Let's see what he is with Jordan Love. You know what I mean? I still don't know how good he is. We hype up all these guys, and then it's like, oh, maybe they weren't that good. I remember when people loved Adam Gase and wanted Adam Gase,
Yeah.
All right, so you touched on the division a little bit because it's one of the ways I want to go. A year ago at this time, we were saying the AFC West might be the most competitive division in the history of the NFL. You touched on exactly what I thought with the Raiders. If I was the Raiders, I would have completely tanked this year, meaning we're going to go with a no-name quarterback. We're going to trade Josh Jacobs, might even trade Max Crosby, who I think is one of the best, most underrated players in the league. Love him. But if I'm the Raiders, I'm doing everything I can to get Caleb Williams, and I'm looking to get more and more first-round draft picks or whatever I can get for this few stars that you have. The one I would have kept probably would have been Devontae Adams because you want Caleb Williams to be able to throw to somebody. But the Raiders aren't winning a Super Bowl this year. But you could set yourself up for maybe the next 5 to 7 years by doing this right. So going into, the division, we all know KC's the best team in the league. It's frustrating for Charger fans that not only competing with a team in the league that's good, but maybe the best team in the NFL that's in the middle of a dynasty right now in Justin Herbert's years. How do you see the AFC West this year?
Yeah, and the scary thing about Kansas City also is just what the betting market's telling you about them. They're the only team in the league this year that's favored in all 17 games. The Eagles are in a weak NFC, and they're not even favored in all 17 games. But you look at last season, Kansas City, over exceeded expectations. We had people coming on our show, and I laughed. I bet the Chiefs last year to win the Super Bowl. I was high on the Chargers. I thought they had a shot to win the AFC West, but I thought they kind of, they were that young up-and-coming team. Maybe they had to take their bumps and bruises. But I liked the Chiefs last year because everybody was writing off Mahomes, who I think is the best quarterback in league history, just because they traded away Tyreek Hill. And I like the moves that they made last season. You brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, who is your underneath guy. And I know MVS isn't Tyreek Hill, but he was their deep threat down the field. Now that they lose Juju Smith-Schuster, on paper, the Chargers have a better wide receiver room. It just has to stay healthy, and I know you don't have Patrick Mahomes, but Justin Herbert's really, really good. You look at the Chiefs wide receiver room right now. I thought they should have went all in for D-Hop, to be honest with you guys. I know he's a little bit older, but Kadarius Toney, I guess, is your number one. You do have MVS. I know Travis Kelce's still the real deal, but he's going to be, 35 years old? So I like the Chargers to win the division. I think the Chiefs, I think both teams, though, I think that the Chargers probably win 12, 13 games. That would be my prediction. I think the Chiefs probably win about 11. I think they finished second. I do think that the Broncos could sneak into the playoffs. Let's see what Sean Payton could do with Russell Wilson. He's looked really bad. 2 years ago in Seattle, he had a hand injury. Last year, I just think Nathaniel Hackett really stinks, which is funny because I believe in the Jets. But I believe in the Jets because I think Nathaniel Hackett only serves one purpose. He's Aaron Rodgers' gopher. If you watch 90s basketball, he's the Aaron Rodgers, what Jack Haley was to Dennis Rodman. He only has a job because of Aaron Rodgers. That's why Denver hired him, right? They thought that they had Aaron Rodgers in the bag. He ends up going back to Green Bay, so they get Russell Wilson. But it's just going to be Rodgers running the show there. But I think, man, with Sean Payton, with better play calling, the impressive thing about the Broncos defense last year, they were a top 5 defense all year long, and the offense was so bad. It was just 3 and out after 3 and out. All those drives stalled. At best, it was a field goal, and yet they still never gave up and still played hard all season long. So I think you might get 3 teams in the playoffs from the AFC West. I don't know that it's the best division in football. I think that's the AFC East, but I think it's going to be damn good. And I think you could get 3 playoff teams, and then you could get the Raiders, who could win 5 games, could win 8 games. I don't think they're a playoff team, though.
So, Ryan, we've seen the last few weeks, all the running backs, all the top-tier running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, speaking out about running backs and how much they're being paid. I think we all agree that running backs, could be making more money for the value that they bring towards the team, but they are interchangeable. That's without a doubt. Are you annoyed when guys like Austin Eckler are so outspoken about their salaries?
See, I'm not, just because with running backs, their shelf life is so short, and I get it. I get it from both sides, right? It's a violent position. And it's crazy because growing up, everybody wanted to play running back, especially like where I grew up, because where I went to high school, they ran the double wing. We never threw the ball. So if you were a running back, you were the star of the team. And like you grew up and you wanted to be Barry Sanders or you wanted to be Walter Payton. But everything started changing. And even like when I really started to pay attention, I'll never forget Emmitt Smith, the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. And then the following year, Emmitt Smith wants a new deal. Jerry Jones doesn't want to give him a new deal because he just gave a new deal to Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin at the time, made them the highest paid players on the offense. Emmitt Smith actually sits out the first couple games of the season. They start 0-2. He gets a 2-year, 3-year deal for like $12 million. And I was like, damn, running backs really make no money. And they're the stars of these teams. They used to be top 10 picks. Now we don't see that anymore. So it doesn't really annoy me. I get it, because it's such a violent game. Like, these are our modern day gladiators. We sit on our ass on a Sunday. We drink beer, we eat chips, we eat pizza, and we watch them. So I want these guys to get paid, man, because like with brain injuries, with head injuries, I have buddies that played actually in the league that, they're rich now. They made a lot of money, but man, everything's kind of a struggle for them right now. You kind of feel bad. So I want these guys to get paid, but I also get why they're not getting paid. I get why owners don't want to give these guys money, because it's crazy. I was just talking about this. College football, it's so tough to replace a running back like a Deuce Vaughn or a Bijan Robinson. But in the NFL, it's kind of plug and play, especially if you have a good offensive line. Nick Chubb's great, but the Browns have the best offensive line in all of football. You could probably stick somebody else back there, and he could average 3-4 yards per carry. A good example is Jacksonville, James Robinson a couple years ago. I think he had most rushing yards ever by an undrafted rookie running back. Now he doesn't even have a team right now. The Patriots just cut him. I feel like if you have a good enough offensive line, you can stick anybody back there. And we see it, man. Like Todd Gurley made all that money after the Rams went to the Super Bowl. The next year he had arthritis and he wasn't the same player. The year later he's in Atlanta. So you really don't want to commit all that money, because now wide receivers want to get paid so much money. They're not even getting paid. Look at last year. You know what I mean? A.J. Brown gets traded. Devontae gets traded. It's just quarterbacks are making so much money. I want to see what the league does with this, but it doesn't really annoy me. But I do get both sides. I get why you wouldn't want to pay an Austin Eckler, especially once these running backs hit 26, 27 years old. It used to be 28, 29. But, man, we don't see too many Adrian Petersons anymore. So I get not wanting to pay him. But guys like Austin Eckler, really quick on that, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Kamara, when he's not punching dudes in Las Vegas and getting suspended, they're really important. Like McCaffrey, because they could catch 70, 80 balls out of the backfield. And that's what the league has now, or what the league's becoming. You know what I mean? It's a passing league. So I get it from both sides. It doesn't really bother me.
I always think back to when Jordan Howard, I think he broke the single rushing record that Walter Payton had for the Bears. My dad's a Bears fan. He still cries over Walter Payton every other damn day. And it's just dude, that guy is not even in the league anymore. And that wasn't too long ago. He was on the Eagles and rode the bench and was the goal line guy. And then ate chips after it. It was just tough one for running backs, tough one to be one. Ryan Horvat, big gambling guy, one of the best handicappers in the business. Before we let you go, any week one bets, any future bets that you got that are just on fire in your pocket right now that you want to give out? And all you listeners in California, wherever the hell you are, if you want to bet, go to BetMGM Sportsbook, the king of sportsbooks, to do it. That's the best. And if you're in California, figure it out, man. VPN, go to a different state, do it, and then sprint back over. Do what you got to do. So, Ryan, if you have any bets, week one, anything spicy you got, let us have it.
All right, so really quick, I'm not saying this because I'm coming on your guys' podcast, but if you like somebody on the defensive side of the ball, defensive player of the year, Nick Bosa is an absolute beast. But let's just say Joey Bosa stays healthy with a healthy Khalil Mack and could give us double-digit sacks, and the Chargers win 12, 13 games. Wouldn't hate that. Wouldn't hate a Justin Herbert MVP bet or Justin Herbert to lead the league in touchdowns or passing yards, like you said. I really like those odds as well. I wouldn't play Brandon Staley Coach of the Year, but I would play Matt Eberflus Coach of the Year at 11-1. If you like the Bears to win the NFC North, why bet them at 4-1 when you could bet Eberflus at 11-1? They have the worst odds to win the division. I'm not sold on the Lions, you guys, and Dan Campbell. I mean, not enough to lay minus 165 or whatever that price is in the NFC North. I think the Vikings are going to be a disaster. That defense is terrible. That was the only defense in the league that allowed Daniel Jones to throw for over 300 yards, not once, but twice, including in a playoff loss. I'm not really high on my Packers. I think their ceiling is 7 wins. I don't know how good Jordan Love is, how bad he is, but I don't know how that defense was a huge letdown. So I think the Bears might be the real deal. I mean, they're probably a year away, but I believe in Justin Fields. I do like DJ Moore. I like Mooney as a number 2. I don't love Claypool, but if he's your 3 and you have Cole Kmet at tight end and you fix up that offensive line a little bit and the defense is a little bit better, they might shock some people, win 10 games. As far as week 1, I bet the Lions +7. That's down to 6.5. If that goes back to 7 or 7.5, everybody's going to bet the Chiefs on that Thursday night opener. I do think Detroit might keep that game competitive. The Chiefs struggle to cover big numbers, and all Detroit does is cover numbers. I actually like Indianapolis to cover the 3.5 week 1 against Jacksonville. These two teams, it's a divisional matchup. They always play each other tough. I think the Jags probably win that conference, win that division by default because it's not very good. And they do add Calvin Ridley to a pretty good offense. But Indianapolis, at least week 1, I think they're going to be able to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor healthy. We'll see if Anthony Richardson starts. There's a whole side of the field he can't throw to, but he could use his legs. So I think they're going to keep that game close. And it's week 1, so crazy stuff always happens. And then my favorite bet, the number's gone, I should say, but I like the Jets. 1.5-point dogs at home Monday night, September 11th against the Bills. I like the Jets to win the division. I like the Dolphins to finish second. I think the Bills might miss the playoffs. There's my hot take for you guys. I don't love Ken Dorsey. I think they really dropped off without Brian Daboll. I think the reason the offense looks so good, if you go back and you watch those games last year, on early downs, they sucked. It was just Josh Allen becoming Superman on third downs. They converted it like a 60% clip. That's not sustainable. Stephon Diggs is pissed off. He wants more of a say in the offense. Gabe Davis didn't make that year 3, year 4, whatever it was, leap after that huge playoff game. I know he did have a high ankle sprain. And then defensively, they're solid, man. But last year, second half of the season, they had no pass rush. Von Miller's older, and he's coming off another injury. Micah Hyde's coming off a neck injury. Jordan Poyer, you do bring back. Like, they were beat up last year. So I worry a little bit about the Bills. I think they could be an 8-9 win team, maybe miss out on a loaded AFC playoff tree. So there's my takes for you, Mario.
All right, Ryan, before you go, and I already know the answer. I can tell by the way you just answered that last question, but you got to say it out loud for this show because it got heated on the show last one we did. We made a bet on this show. It was those two guys against me. My hot take was the Titans have more wins this year than New York Jets. And you got to say it out loud. Who you taking? Who has more wins at the end of the season, the Jets or the Titans?
Oh, man. All right, so I'm going to take the Jets because I think the Jets surprise everybody, win 13 games, live up to the hype. This Hard Knocks crap scares the hell out of me. I'm not going to lie.
Really?
Anytime anybody doubts Aaron Rodgers, that's when I buy in. I sold on the Packers last year, you guys. I bet the Vikings, who I absolutely hate more than anything on this planet, to win the division because I liked Kevin O'Connell year 1 in that offense. You know what I mean? They had Zadarius Smith. But, like, Rodgers wasn't motivated. Now he looks great. He's in great shape. People are saying he's washed. He's coming off one of the worst seasons, if not the worst season of his career. But, dude, if they get Breece Hall back, I know most running backs don't look like themselves year 1 post-ACL injury, except for, like, Jamal Charles and Adrian Peterson. But he's the real deal. I think Garrett Wilson to win Offensive Player of the Year is a good bet. I think the Jets are going to live up to the expectations. But don't sleep on the Titans, especially now with D-Hop. Like, I didn't understand it at first because, you know, this offseason they were trying to trade Derrick Henry. They couldn't, which makes sense. He's 29 years old. 3 of the last 4 years, I believe, he's led the league in rushing attempts. But there was no market for him. Tannehill's 35 years old. There's no market for him. So you're on the hook for these guys. Why not go, I guess, in one more time with this core? Because Vrabel's a great coach. You lose Robert Woods and Austin Hooper. You bring in D-Hop. You were 30th last year in passing yards, 28th in passing touchdowns. They only threw 16. But, like, if you look at it, they have the 9th easiest schedule in the league. They have the 4th best net rest advantage. They play 4 games, I believe, with rest advantage. And Vrabel's a really good coach, and they had some bad luck last year. They were 5-6 in one-score games. They lost more guys due to injury on the defensive side of the ball than any team in the league. If they could stay healthy, I know we're all hyped up about the Jags and Trevor Lawrence. Who knows, man? The Titans might win 11, 12 games and shock everybody because that's what Vrabel does, and they're always best in the underdog row, I feel. So I don't hate your take, but I'm going to go with the boys and roll with the Jets.
There you go.
You're a dumbass, Dave.
Ryan, I really appreciate your time. That was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Go Chargers.
That was cool. That was Ryan Horvat right there. Again, co-host of BetMGM Tonight. Does a fantastic job on Odyssey, and we're happy to have him. That was really cool. I enjoyed having him on. A lot of energy right there, and he knew a lot more about the Chargers than I thought. Didn't like what he had to say about Bosa, but again, I hope I'm wrong on Bosa. Everyone.